Okay, now we're recording. Yeah, so I'm Shelley. I have been a Pluralsight author since 2016, so almost 5 years now. I've got 10 courses currently. I published my last one just about 2 weeks ago or so, I think. So I just wanted to kind of walk you through my my reasons for doing this. I left my full-time job at the end of last year. I was the lead developer for the Johns Hopkins Health website. So for me personally, I had to get out. I talked about COVID every day. Our site had a million hits every day. It was so stressful. So last year I had a lot of mental health problems, which, I'm certainly happy to talk about. The whole stigma does not exist with me. So for me this year, my main goal was to just de-stress, take care of my mental health, my physical health, and all of that. So the way I prepared for this was over the past 2 years, I lived at a level that was far below my income. I paid off my car, all my credit cards. And I mean, you guys, I had like $22,000 in credit card debt 2 years ago. Now I have none. Um, and then last year with COVID, one of the perks of that really was, that we're not going anywhere, eating out, traveling. So there goes like all of those expenses. So overall, for our household, we're spending like a third of what we used to, which certainly has made it a lot easier for me to leave a stable income. Um, since I have started at Pluralsight, all of my courses except for one, I took the low completion payment and the high viewership payments. So over the
Hey, that's
past,
like a mega secret right there. Don't tell everybody our money's going down. That's like one of the keys.
it's a huge key. I'm so glad that I started that way, because with 9 courses over the past 2 years, I have earned just under $60,000 in passive income viewership payments. And with that, I mean, my stable job, I was making twice that. So this year, I am not expecting to earn as much as I would have if I had stayed at that job. But of course, the level of stress and all of that is what I'm looking forward to um, reducing the most. This year, I'm planning to publish a course about every 6 weeks. I will say that's really not going well so far, because Pluralsight isn't responding to my requests like they used to, I think. Um, so it's going a little slower um, than I would like. And for this next course, we're about 1 week behind. So there's that. Beep, beep, beep. So I talked about debt. I talked about, one of the main things for me with this move, and if everyone can mute, it'll help with no extra noises in the background. My main hurdles were kind of two things. One was switching that mentality from having a check that I can expect every 2 weeks, and it's always the same amount. Well, last year at the author summit. Craig Golightly had a session that was perfect, and I'll put a link because I've watched it so many times. And actually, after I watched it the first time was when I drafted up my resignation for my job. But his suggestion was to alternate high course completion payments with low, and to do the high payment when your course is niche, or you estimate that it won't earn approximately 300 a month. So for me, I had just started teaching Sitecore, which is incredibly niche. Like yeah. And the last course I published was the first one that I ever took the high course completion payment. And so now I can definitely see the future of combining those payments with my viewership payments. When I started, they were still called royalties. Yeah. And then the last hurdle was healthcare, because in America, your healthcare is tied to your employment. So I went with private healthcare. I have a lot of health issues, which actually make me high risk for COVID. So working for Hopkins last year was real fun. Yeah, but it all kind of turned out. I am expecting to not struggle, but not have as much income this year. But I think that next year it'll even out. So, is there anything else I wanted to add to that? Oh, savings. Savings is how I'm able to not freak out so much about money. At the end of last year, I had 6 months worth of household expenses at a moderate level of comfort saved. So I have taken a lot of money out of savings to prepare to not get paid again until like April. So that is my story. Let us move on to Craig. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for sharing. I'm Craig. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, USA. Um, and I think for me, for trying to kind of understand my decision making for going full time or really leaving my W-2 job, was to kind of let's take a step back. And the main reason I joined Pluralsight was to create or a side income for real estate rental property investing. So for me, it was just a way to, this is completely separate from my daily expense, daily outflow money. It's just not going to be touched for anything other than that. And so I started my first course, I want to say May 2019. No, 2018, excuse me. And it took me 120 hours to complete on nights and weekends, which ended up being like 3.5 months. And then I kind of got burnt out doing that. So I took 4 months off. And then on my second course, sometime in winter 2019, and that I completed in May 2019. And so I'd been doing Pluralsight for just under a year. And my first two courses, I still feel like were really good. And so maybe that was almost like a survivorship bias. Like I'm thinking every course is going to be that good. But at the end of the day, after my first two courses, saving all the completion payments, all the royalty payments, as well as other side jobs I was doing for the rental property investing, I had enough money to invest in my first rental property. But at the same time, I also saw, wow, man, I mean, Pluralsight right now, it's not, I'd say it's probably maybe 15 to 20% of my living expenses were being generated by my income from Pluralsight. I was like, man, I'm doing this part-time. What if instead of taking my money for my rental property investment. What if I just use that as like a 6-month runway, just like Shelley said, 5 or 6 months of expenses. And so kind of after talking it over with my wife, I was like, you know what? And I think that I kind of speak for a lot of people on this call. We're in IT, we're in relatively high demand. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out and I just go get another job. Like my worst case scenario is what I'm doing right now. So it's like, I didn't really have anything to lose. And so in June 2019, I was like, you know what, with only 2 courses, I decided to walk away from my full-time job. And so I mentioned my first 2 courses took 120 hours to complete. And so I was like, man, 120 hours, that's 3 40-hour work weeks. I'm going to crank out a course every 3 weeks. Like this is going to be easy. And so that's kind of my caution that I want to send to everybody is what I didn't do that I would do differently is I wasn't very disciplined in the very beginning. I didn't cut down our expenses going out. And there was a third thing. I don't remember what it was. Anyways, like I didn't hit the ground running as much as I thought I would. And so I would just caution anyone that is thinking about doing this, day one, like be ultra disciplined to get yourself going because there's not a boss hanging over your shoulder like, oh, why aren't you at your desk at 8 a.m.? Why'd you take an hour lunch? Why did you go to the zoo on a Wednesday with your son? So it's like, yeah, those benefits are great, but at the same time, if you're not disciplined, it can come back to bite you. So long story short, I released, I think 12 more courses in the year, basically since I left. So I left in June 2019 and I have 15 courses now. So I released 13 more courses. And so you definitely can do them faster. And I will say that not all these courses are home runs, if you will. Some of them are barely doing $100 a month. I'd say most of them are doing 300. I got a couple 500 and I got the $1,000 course, which was my first one. So it's just kind of like Shelley said, like Craig Golightly has said, like you don't really know until you create the course how well it's going to do. So I would just say if I were to do it again, I'd probably wait till I had at least 5 courses in the bank, just that way the monthly income was a little bit more stable and a little bit higher. 2, I'd be way more disciplined. And then 3, especially in the beginning, just kind of restrict the outflow of the cash, maybe not, don't do quite as many dinners out or, or whatever it looks like for your situation. But on the flip side, I mean, it's been very rewarding to go to the zoo with my son. He's 3. He's only going to be 3 once. I'm able to pick up other side jobs that I couldn't do if I had to be tied to a desk, or even now in the COVID era, you have to be tied to being available 100, between 9 to 5 or whatever. So for me, the benefits definitely outweigh the risks. I'm way glad I did it. I think if you're on the fence and like the numbers make sense, but you're just scared, I would urge you to do it. Because if you're like me and you're, have a good job now and you have a skill set, which clearly you do, otherwise you wouldn't be creating courses on those topics. Worst case scenario, from my opinion, is you could go back and get your job or get a different job if something happened. So I hope that all made sense. I kind of had an outline and I don't think I really followed it the way I expected it to, but yeah, let me know if you have any questions when we get to the Q&A. But after that, let's go to Jason Alba.
Jason's next.
Okay, so I get like 45 minutes, Shelley? Is that what's...
No, like 10.
10, okay. Man, I started in 2012, right? So how to put my 8 or whatever, however many years into 10 minutes. I started Pluralsight the same reason I started my company in 06. Like I couldn't keep a job. Really, like nobody would hire me. I got approached by Pluralsight because I was referred in. And I remember there's so much that I want to share, but we only have a few minutes. So I remember the first royalty check I got after the editor, it used to be called, and then it became ASM, was on the phone with me, and she's like, "Oh, everybody's going to want your LinkedIn course because no matter what languages they're in or whatever, everybody needs like career LinkedIn, whatever." And I was like, "Okay, I'm in." So At the time, I was making about $5,000 a pop speaking on stage. And I was like, all right, well, I got to sign over some intellectual property, right? Like I got to say that I'm not going to do this on any of the competing platforms. And that was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. And so anyways, my first royalty check was like $1,700. And I was like, this isn't even a fraction of what I used to make on speaking on stage. This is ridiculous. And so she came back to me a few months later and she's like, hey, Jason, everybody loves your course. But will you update it? Because it's getting outdated. And I was like, well, not everybody loves my course because according to the numbers I'm getting, like, this is not turning out the way that I thought it was going to turn out. And so anyways, it was a really rocky start. I threw in a few courses early on back in 2012, 2013, 2014. And, my royalties were climbing up to like $3,000 a month. And I was like, okay, so this is, 3,000 is kind of fun money, but I had a family and expenses. And it was like, this isn't like real money yet. Well, let me fast forward to February of 2018. I got a job, like a real job. I hadn't had a job since 2006. And I've been doing a lot of courses. There was one year, I'll go back before February of 18. I had this thought, and I'm going to call it inspiration. If you're a person of faith, it was inspiration. Otherwise, it was like maybe paranoia. But my thought was like, because I've had experiences in my career where you have a window of opportunity and the window eventually shuts. And I was thinking, you know what, this is going to shut. This is going to shut. And I need to get as many courses in as I can. And so that year I did 14 courses and it was hell. It was painful. I told my wife at the end of the year, I'm like, I am getting a full-time masseuse and a full-time therapist because making 14 courses is like ridiculously hard. And after I did those courses, I got an email saying, hey, we're done with your topics. Like there's no more soft skills topics that we want. And I was like, well, there was my window of opportunity. And I'm glad that I was able to get a whole bunch of courses in right before the window shut. And I didn't get picked up again for another course for 2.5 years. And I think that's one of the interesting things about, everybody's story and everybody's path. And it's like, Craig made this decision, this very intentional decision after 2 courses to go full time. And I think that, for him, it worked out great. And I think it's great, but there's so many factors involved in whether Pluralsight's, the royalties, and I'm old school too. Plus on the page, on our finance page, it still says royalties. So I'm going to call it royalties. There's so many factors involved in the royalties that we get that it's not like, hey, I did really well this month or this quarter, so I'm on the up, right? And so I'm just going to quit my job. So if you're gonna do this, let me just encourage you to be very, very intentional about it. So anyways, fast forward to February of 2018, and I needed a change of scenery. I was bored. Pluralsight had not had me doing any courses for a couple of years by that time. I had a lot of time on my hands, and I have a few other income streams. I have some rentals, but I don't need to spend any time on that. I have a website that I run for job seekers, but I have a team, and I built systems and processes, and I really didn't need to spend time there. And I was just feeling the itch, like I need to get out. I need to change the scenery. So I went and got a job. And when I got that job, I was making $12,000 a month in royalties. This is after not having done courses for over 2 years. One of the statistics that I watch in our finances is the dollar per hour. It's really easy to calculate. You basically just take, the amount you made in a month and the number of hours you made in that month, and you get your dollar per hour. And I've been watching the dollar per hour since 2012 grow and grow and grow and grow. And I think it was in 18, this was before or a little bit after I got my job, we went to the Author Summit in Salt Lake City, and Aaron gets up on stage and he said, by the end of 2021, we'll be $1 billion in revenue. And at the time they were about 330. And I thought, okay, if they're going to triple the corporate revenue And our dollar per hour, the royalties are based on the revenue. Are our royalties going to triple? And I couldn't even imagine the dollar per hour tripling by the end of 2021. Now that's changed since COVID. Like that threw off the billion by 2021. I think that's the last I heard anyways. But still, Pluralsight's on this like very aggressive growth strategy. And I've seen the dollar per hour grow and even double since 2012. And could it possibly triple? And I thought, man, I wish I could start doing courses again and just start getting more and more. I'm a $300 a course guy also. Like if my courses are making $300, I'm not ecstatic about it, but it's like, okay, that was a decent investment of my time. And next course, what's the next course I could do? Okay, February 2018, $12,000. October, right before Halloween, the week of Halloween, 2018, I'm in the boss's office and she's like, we're pulling the plug on the whole program. Feel really bad about this. I'm sorry. At that time, I think my royalty was, sorry, let me go back. My numbers are wrong. I think I was making $8,000 a month when I went into that job. My royalties in the 10 months went up to $12,000 a month. And a year later, they had doubled. It was amazing. The opportunity that I found in Pluralsight, which includes hustling, right? Like doing courses, dealing with the changes at Pluralsight is frustrating, going from editor to ASM and then PE and all that other stuff. The changes in processes, the changes in how we get courses, the competitive nature of like bidding on a course. I remember spending hours on a course proposal and then not getting it. And it's like, come on, like this is too hard and too stressful. But I'll tell you what, man, when I was sitting in the boss's office getting laid off, and I'm like, you don't even account for half of my revenue. Like I have other streams, mostly Pluralsight, but I have other things going on. And I know you feel bad about letting me go, but I'm actually okay with it. And the interesting thing is I got let go. I think I got let go on a Thursday. So Wednesday, I was on a call with my ASM and she was like, you ready to get started again? I was like, absolutely. So Wednesday I had that call. Thursday I got notice that I had like a 5-week notice. And then Friday I was on a call with a partnership opportunity with my job search CRM. And so, what I tell people is your job is one income stream. Think of it as one income stream. And for most people, it's your primary income stream. But the question is, how do you get other income streams? Or even if you just have one other income stream, but you make that other one really grow. And that's what the opportunity for Pluralsight has been. My royalties have grown significantly since that, the doubling. My highest was right after Free April. Free April was unbelievable. It was amazing. I've had 2 royalty checks. I've never talked about money. And so I feel a little uncomfortable talking about this. And I'm not going to say this to brag, but I'm going to say this because I want you guys to know that it's happening. Like there's possibilities out there. So years and years ago, I heard that one author, and I'm not talking about Scott Allen. He was like the one that everybody wanted to like kind of catch up to. But there was another author who was making $400,000 a month, or no, sorry, not a month, a quarter. No, a year. Sorry. So 400,000, that sounded really good to me. And I was like, man, I'd really like to get there. I'll never get there because I don't do tech courses, and the tech courses are where the money's at. Right. And I started in soft skills like 8 years ago. Soft skills are courses where you might make $50 a course, $100 a course. Like nobody's making money on soft skills, kind of. That's the message I want to give you because I don't want competition in this area. But I was just hoping I could make $300 a month on a course. And then I'd say that was a good course. I have some losers big time, but I have some big winners also. And I've had 2 royalty checks last year that were in the 6 figures. And I finally was like, I did it. I caught up to that guy that I always wanted to catch up to. And I never thought that I would catch up to him. This last royalty check went down quite a bit, and it looks like the next one is going to go down also. But I know that the opportunities are there. When I talk about hustle, it's working through the processes and the systems and even the changes that we get, on creating courses and submitting courses and all that stuff. I am really, really big on the idea that we can self-market. I know some people say we can't do any self-marketing, or no marketing will make a difference in what we do. But I have found a few tactics that I've become very passionate about that I know have had an impact on my numbers. And so I approach this as I am really intent on making this financially viable, as opposed to, well, I'm just going to take whatever comes and hopefully it's going to be good stuff. So anyways, like I said, I don't mean to brag, but I do want you guys to know, like I said, man, that year when I did 14, I wanted a full-time masseuse and therapist. Like, it is hard work. When I say this is like passive income, when I tell people it's passive income, it wasn't passive getting here, So nowadays I spend my time doing whatever I want, which actually I spend a lot of time updating courses. But anyways, I think my 10 minutes are up, and happy to go into Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing your personal stories. And I aspire to making 6 figures in 1 quarter. That would be great. Yeah, so I wanted to open it up to Q&A here from the audience. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Hey, this is Craig Golightly. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Hey, Craig.
Okay. If I cut out, sorry, I'm going through Mountain Pass, but yeah, I want to echo a couple of really key points. As far as like, if you're considering making the switch for that first year, like if I could go back and tell myself to do something different, it would be laser focus on courses. I had heard from other authors like, okay, yeah, just focus on Pluralsight stuff. Don't try to write a blog. Don't try to speak at 20 conferences, because all of a sudden you have all this time. They're like, just work on stuff. Well, what happened to me is I got involved with like doing a workshop and then doing like some other marketing things. And while they were good and I'm benefiting from those relationships to have further opportunities, like courses are still the bread and butter and will be for some time of Pluralsight. So like I would say one of the key things is to get as many courses done that first year, to just really get your base in there and to get a good feel for like the type of viewership that you're going to get for some of those topics. And so, yeah, but yeah, awesome stories. I really enjoyed hearing from everybody. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say another tip that I forgot to share when I was sharing my story was, if you're kind of on the fence and you want to know like how productive could you really be doing this full time, I would urge you, if you have the extra vacation time, to take like a full week and just kind of mimic what it would be like to create a course from 9 to 5. So that way you can really tell, how productive are you? What things did you not foresee? Like for me, it was, figuring out the routine with my wife and my son. And, I'm physically here, but I'm still working, kind of get all those things figured out, but also just kind of take it for a test drive. See if maybe you don't really like creating courses 40 hours a week or whatever you decide to do. So that was just kind of my way to kind of test the waters without making any big commitments.
Yeah, excellent point. And I also, I forgot to say that this year I am not planning to work full time. So far in this month that I've been, a full-time author, I have worked 3 or 4 hours a day. That's it. I wouldn't count chatting or mentoring, because to me that's not work, but I have a lot of students who reach out like every day. So I spend time helping them troubleshoot issues and stuff like that. And I also wanted to point out what Pluralsight did for me in my overall career. Being attached to the name Pluralsight will surface opportunities that you never even knew. I am now a 2-time Sitecore Technology MVP. I just got my second one today. So that's just the technology category is for devs. I am one of 5 women in the entire world that's in that category. Thank you for the congratulations in the chat. It's just, I can't believe it. I'm like speechless. But then also I've had people reach out to me to pay me for speaking opportunities. Okay. Like, this is new, so I'm navigating it. Yeah. But anyway, any
Hey,
other
let
questions?
me jump on that, Shelley.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's important. Like, if you think I'm going to go Pluralsight full time, that might mean that you don't have like your regular day job that you're leaving, but it doesn't mean that you're going to turn away other opportunities like speaking, or consulting or writing or any other passion that you might have. Here's an anecdotal side note. I talked about this in Slack after it happened, and then I've talked about it a few other times. But I went out to speak at Techorama. I always get the name wrong. Techorama, and Gil Clarine is the author, Pluralsight author, and he's one of the people that put that on. And so anyways, I went out there, and they pay for your expenses, but they don't pay you a stipend or anything like that. And I figured out a way to get my 30-day passes. And if you're not, remember, I'm big into marketing yourself, right? So they used to give us these 30-day stickers, and where's my camera? So there's a 30-day pass on here. And I figured out a way in my 2 presentations to give those out big time. I think I gave out around 300 or 400 of those just from 2 presentations. And I had people coming up like, hey, can I get some for my coworkers? And I'm like, absolutely, right? I had lines that I've never had before speaking, right? The next month after I got home, my next month's royalty went up by $5,000. I'm pretty sure most of that increase was from speaking. So even if you can get free speaking gigs, man, you gotta get out there and put yourself out there. As we help Pluralsight grow and increase the branding and the revenue with new sales and stuff, that impacts us, right?
Yeah, I love that story. I will tell a similar story of the before times at an in-person conference. I wasn't even a speaker. I had published my first Sitecore course the Friday before the conference started. The conference was in Orlando in Disney World. I was like at the height of my powers. I love Disney. I don't know if you can see stuff, but I have all kinds of stuff back there. I went to this conference not knowing what I was going to say to people. I didn't have a plan. Pluralsight sent me a box of swag. I had trial codes. I had hand sanitizer, which was by far the most popular thing. I think they sent me socks and like balls and pens and all sorts of stuff. So I get to the conference and I sat in the lobby at first and expected people to come to me. But a friend of mine was like, you should stand in the hallway where all of the tech sessions are. And that was that. I mean, and then I was off to the side at first. I found this table, this like tiny little table to set up my stuff and stand at. I was off to the side. One of the event staffers came up to me and asked me what I was doing. And I thought that he would, tell me to stop. He pulled my table into the middle of the hallway so that no one would miss me. I'm telling you guys that it was like a life-changing event. I was sometimes swarmed by 20 people at a time. I wasn't even a speaker at this conference, just that they heard the name Pluralsight. They were instantly interested. And as a woman, I was prepared to, pitch more and prove that I had the skills to
I
teach
thought you were going to say you were proposed to.
Not yet, no. I'm always prepared to prove myself. This was the first time in my entire career nobody questioned me at all because I was a Pluralsight author. And when you're a Pluralsight author, people just, know that you're great, because it's really hard to become a Pluralsight author. I just posted in the chat that, I've heard 10% of people who apply actually become authors. So congratulations to all of you.
I've heard it was less. I heard it was
Really?
harder to get into Pluralsight than some of the Ivy Leagues. But that was a few years ago. And I don't know, I've referred some really brilliant people to Pluralsight and they didn't get through. And I'm like, man, if I had to redo it now, I wouldn't get through, Shelley, I just want to make a point. Like, you were out of your comfort zone, or like you loved being in the middle?
No.
Like, see, and that's the thing. Like, when we're marketing our stuff, it's kind of embarrassing to go out and say, hey, I made a course on this, go get it. But man, this is your business, guys, gals. This is your business. Like, you got to get serious about being able to say, I'm a Pluralsight author. Aside from 30-day passes, which I don't give out indiscriminately. One thing I am doing a lot is I, like on Twitter, especially, I'm going out and I'm saying, hey, here's a course of mine. By the way, you can get this whole course for free with a 10-day pass. Just go click on the 10-day trial button, right? So you don't even have to ask people to buy stuff or sign up for an account or any of that. If you're proud of your course, you found the right audience, tell them, give them a link and say, go get it for free. You don't have to sign up for, or you don't have to pay for anything.
Exactly. In the chat, I see a question from Peter on the trial codes. So the trial codes you can request from your ASM. This past year with COVID, instead of the physical pucks or whatever they're called, they finally just sent me a Excel spreadsheet of 100 codes so I could copy and paste them for people. Before, when I would give away codes on Twitter and I would have like hundreds of messages from people, I would actually have to go to each one individually and take a picture of the puck and send it to them. So I prefer this. Yeah.
They used to, these ones that I have here, these must be really old. The last batch I got of these were actual laptop stickers. So you could peel off the back and use the code and then put a sticker on, which was really cool. But yeah, I get mine electronically and they are, ask your ASM and then give them out. Like when you go speak at meetups or any opportunities that you have to get in front of your audience that your course is applicable to, tell people, say, hey, I got a 30-day pass. Now, the cool thing about the 30-day pass is it is absolutely unlimited for 30 days. Whereas the 10-day trial, I think, has a limit of 200 minutes, which is like a little over 3 hours. So if they watch your 3-hour course or a couple 1 or 2 hour courses, they're done. They hit the limit, even if it's been only 2 days, right? But you give out that 30-day pass. And I tell people, I'm like, hey, you know what? Here's a 30-day pass, and here's the courses I recommend you watch for the next 30 days. Sorry, I got construction in the back, so I'm gonna.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I did not know that, but
yeah, quick comment on marketing side. There's also the affiliate program, and so basically you sign up, and then they will generate like links that will stick a cookie in somebody's browser. And if they sign up for the trial, like even if they just sign up for a trial, you get paid for that. You get like a few bucks or something. And then if they convert over to like a subscription, you get payment for that. So like that's a really good option if you already have a lot of traffic on a website or, you know, whatever your channel is. If you're driving a lot of people to Pluralsight, definitely take advantage of that. Like I don't have a lot of traffic, but I've still gotten like $60, you know, like in a year. It's like it's better than nothing. But other people that have a lot of audience, that can actually be a pretty significant revenue stream. And then the other quick comment on the you touched on not planning to actually work 40 hours a week. So in the first year that I went, you know, full time, I worked an average of maybe 20 hours a week over the course of that year. I took a lot of vacation. I took a lot of time off, and I still got 15 courses done. And so, like, you know, really kind of dial in with what you want to do. But it was kind of a nice break for me as well. And so that's definitely another aspect of, you know, if you're looking at that being your focus. And I would echo, you know, look for really good other opportunities. It's not that you're going to say no to everything, but I would recommend saying no to some of the onesie twosies within Pluralsight in favor of getting your course base built.
Yeah, excellent advice. And thank you for bringing up the affiliate program. That one, I think last year I made like 600 or so, which isn't bad. So that program has a Slack channel as well. And the contact person is Ross Hayes. He actually will take time out, meet with you personally, and talk about your needs specifically. He's great. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say in terms of marketing your courses, if you find a Slack community for your specific topics, that's gold. You just post there, help troubleshoot occasionally. Try not to just post your courses, like actually talk to people, and, you know, and it also helps to figure out what topics are needed as well. Yeah. Any other questions that I have?
Yeah, if I could jump in, there were a couple. Richard and Peter were talking in the chat about editing services. Jason and Shelley, do you guys use the Pluralsight editing services or have an editor outside of that?
Yeah, I have a husband who edits all of my stuff. I will say what I didn't mention before is that for both of us, Pluralsight is now our main income, because if I'm making more courses, he needs more time to produce stuff. So we're both part-time still, but I mean, it works out great because I hate editing. I hate listening to my voice, but I guess he likes it.
When I was really slamming down courses, I had an editor in China who went by the name of Jason. And there was, I think he had 3 other Pluralsight authors that he was doing courses for. And he was amazing. The quality and the speed that guy put out was unbelievable. He could edit stuff almost faster than I could say stuff. I mean, he was awesome, and he was very, very inexpensive. I went back to him a couple years ago when I got back on the horse, and his prices went way, way up. And I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll just I'm going to edit my own stuff. And I have for the last couple of years. I tried the editing services, and I absolutely love what they're doing. I think they're very responsive and they're very fast. My latest issue that I had was that I turned in 3 or 4 modules, and they were all edited by different people. And so the background noises and all the settings and stuff were different. And they're like, well, this will pass. This is good. And I'm like, that's cool. But for me to sleep well at night, I need it all to be the same consistency. So I love what they're doing. I love that they're free. But for now, I'm just editing my own stuff. And I'm going a little slower too.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I'll provide a different perspective. Like for me, like, yes, could I do a better quality myself? Absolutely. But at the same time, there's kind of a mantra that I've been saying to myself is perfect is the enemy of done. And I'm not saying put out crap courses, but at the same time, I mean, you could, I believe, at least I could just edit and edit and edit until like, oh, there's something right there and something right there. But I think it's different from our perspective because we have to get these fancy mics. We have to, have these crazy setups. So of course we're going to hear it. But I'm curious. I don't know this answer, but I would assume that most of our learners, they don't really care about the micro details that we do as far as quality goes. And so I guess what I was just going to say for Richard and Peter and anyone else who's curious about the editing services through Pluralsight or another editor, for me, it's probably cut my course creation time. I'm not going to quite say in half, but at least by 35, 40%. And so let's say like there's an editor that I pay, if I'm not doing the Pluralsight services, I pay $2 per unedited minute submitted. So let's say I have an hour of raw video to be edited, that'd be $120. And yeah, that's a lot of money, especially for if you only got a couple courses in the hopper. But let's say your course completion fee, let's say it's $2,000. If you can complete a course twice as fast and make $4,000, and yet you're having to pay out, let's say each course costs you $500 to edit. Side note, I've never paid $500, but just for simple math, your net income is $3,000 because now instead of getting one course for $2,000, you're getting two courses for $4,000 less the $500 for each course. So from my perspective, editing is way worth it. I can produce stuff faster. And there was one more thing I was just going to say. I just lost it. I'm sorry. But anyways, for those that are, the one thing that I did have to do is I had to change up my workflow because I used to record my screen without any audio, then write my script and then record my voice and then sync it up. Now, I believe it's still the same amount of time, if not less. I write my script before I record, and then I do my audio and video at the same time. What I do is I say what I'm going to say, and then I'm silent, and I click whatever I'm going to click or type whatever I'm going to type, and then I stop moving or touching anything on the computer screen, and I say what I'm going to say. So the editors and production services, as well as my other editor, they're very good about syncing that up or however you want it to look. And so my perspective is to at least give it a try. So that way, you know what it looks like. And the editors for production services, if you are unhappy with what they do, at least in my experience, they've been quick to fix whatever issues they've had.
Yeah. Excellent point.
Can I say something on editing too?
Yeah, go ahead.
Editing totally saved my bacon. I got an editor for courses 3 through 5. And then when I quit, initially I was doing my own editing, but it's really not something I enjoy. And so finding a good editor, number one, helps me have a more efficient workflow. So occasionally I will do some of my own edits, but generally I'm engaging with an outside editor just because they know me, they know my style, they know what I like, and like we have a workflow. Editing services is great though, especially if you're first, just starting out, because it's there, and then that's one less thing that you've got to try to learn as you're getting started. But yeah, I would echo Jason's thing where sometimes you get different editors, and it's almost like you have to retrain people of how you want stuff over and over and over. And for me, that didn't really make sense. But it's a great service because it's just there and you can use it if you don't want to go try to find someone.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll also say that if you are hell-bent on editing yourself because you think that someone who isn't technical can't edit your stuff, my husband doesn't write code. He's not a developer. By the end of the first course that he did for me, he was showing me like if statements that he thought were wrong, just because he learned from listening to me teach this stuff. So non-technical people can absolutely edit your stuff. Yeah. what else was I going to say? Oh yeah. In terms of workflow, if you use a production service at all, we increased our efficiency a lot by handling reviews using a tool. Before, in Confluence, in the script, I would put the time code and then what needed to be fixed. Frame.io, you can just like put the issue right in the video at the time code. It's much easier, you know, in terms of workflow.
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about that. I don't do any code stuff for my courses, but when I learned about workflow optimization on creating the course, right? And like Peter just said, I think I'm not looking at the comments, I see him as they come in, but I think he said he says something or makes a loud noise. Some people tap their mic when they make a mistake so they could visually see, you know, on Camtasia. But there are tricks that you learn along the way. I mean, I've done 36 courses, so I've learned a lot of tricks. There's tricks you learn along the way, like what Shelley just said, that will optimize and make the next one a little easier, I used to hate editing. My wife would come in and look at my face and she'd be like, "Oh, you're editing. I'm going to leave," right? She knew, because I hated it so bad. And now I've got it down with a lot of the pre-work that I do. The editing is just very quick and easy. So figure out what those workflows are. I mean, like I said, treat this as your job, right? And if you had a job, you would look for optimization opportunities. So do the same thing with creating courses.
Absolutely. I just saw in the chat, learn your Camtasia and audio editor shortcuts. Absolutely. I mean, personally, I don't know them, but my husband does. So yeah. Anything else anybody wants us to talk about? We just have a few minutes left here.
Hey guys, this is Kevin. I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Hey,
It sounds like all of you guys came from full-time, W-2 jobs. Did any of you come from a consulting background?
So yeah, my job, I started out as a consultant, and then I needed healthcare, so I switched to W-2. I've actually switched back to a consultant for them, but only very occasionally. Between 2016 to 2018, I was a consultant for 2 companies, I think. Yeah, but the problem I found with that was getting paid on time. Yeah.
I was full-time before in my career, and I did consulting on the side if it ever came up, but I wasn't like never a full-time consultant. When I started Pluralsight, I had been an entrepreneur since 2006, so probably about 6 years, which means you did anything that came along. But I'd never been like a real full-time hardcore consultant.
Okay. Yeah. So the issue I'm struggling with is I am a full-time consultant doing 40 hours a week for a client. So I'm working a full-time job and I am getting paid. There's been no issues there, luckily. But I am working essentially a full-time job, but obviously the money with consulting is very good. My wife carries the benefits. So I don't have that worry, right? And so my question has always been, do I want to jump into full-time with Pluralsight? I have 4 courses out there now over a couple of years, and I do see the revenue, like Jason was talking about. I have seen the dollars per hour go up quite a bit, even since 2017 when I got started. But do I take that leap and turn down consulting work at the rate that I'm getting paid, right? And so that's what's been tough for me. And so I was just curious about your backgrounds, but and Shelley, it does sound like yours is very similar to mine now. Mm-hmm. The only issue I'm having is I can't find a consulting gig for 20 hours a week, right? It's either, as needed, which is a couple of hours a week at best, or 40. And I would love to find one at 20 because then I could kind of mix and match. But that just hasn't seemed to happen for me. So
Yeah.
that's the position I'm
Hey,
in.
can I jump in on that? I got to bounce. I got a consulting call in 3 minutes, but uh, so I was really inspired in the early days by an author who doesn't have anything in the library anymore. He's not affiliated with Pluralsight, but he talked about going to work and then coming home and like put the kids to bed and work all night long. And I was like, I don't want to do that. But this guy packed in over 50 courses and was making a load of money and then just retired. Like he's like, I'm done. I did it all. And he was making enough money where he could walk away. I'm not that guy. Like my brain is not functional after 8 o'clock. I start making mistakes after 8 o'clock. But I know there's a lot of people who are full-time, and the only way they're going to be able to do this is to either get up a little bit early or work after hours or work during their lunch break or whatever. But if you want it, like make it happen, because like I said, my window of opportunity closed. Your window, if you're a Pluralsight author right now, your window is open. And so go do whatever you can to get those courses in. And eventually your $1,000 will turn into $3,000, will turn into $8,000. And then you don't even have to think about, do I do this or this?
Right.
Yeah. I
Thanks.
think one of the hardest things for me was turning down work, because I always remember 2008, man. I was unemployed for 10 months and I was like, I'm never going to turn anything down again. But at some point, you have to prioritize your time. And I think, Jason, if I remember correctly, you had a tweet one day and you said that if you're in a position where you're turning down work, it is time to raise your rates. Yeah, which
Yep, absolutely.
I totally did. My current contracting position, they offered me a number that wasn't, great. And then I said, here are all the reasons I should make more. And then at the end of the email, I was just like, my rate has doubled, and they actually paid it,
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
that was the first time I really hitched up my britches and was like, I deserve more, yeah, but literally double. The reasons for that were mainly because last year I won 3 awards. So, as Bronn from Game of Thrones said, knights cost double. That's how I felt. Yeah. But in terms of switching that mentality from how do I make this leap to not having a stable income exactly, I'm not sure how I did it exactly, because I am expecting to not earn as much this year, but next year it should even out, I think. I don't know. By the end of this year, maybe I'll be a millionaire. You never know. But for me, it was just that I know that in case this doesn't work out, just like Craig said, I can just go and find a job. Why not just try it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me add real quick that my
Mhm.
original plan when I did this was it was still real estate focused, and it still kind of is. So my original plan was to take as much time and create as many courses as it took to get to 10K a month in viewership payments. And so the reason I bring that up is just because it's like kind of like on the same vein Shelley was just talking about. Just because you decide to go full time for Pluralsight right now doesn't mean you have to stay full time for the rest of your life. Like you could literally take a sabbatical, knock out as much courses as you want, or even on the flip side, you know what? These last 5 courses aren't really producing as much as I thought they would. Maybe Pluralsight, maybe it's more of a side thing. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, as long as you feel confident that you could go back and get your consulting or get a full-time job or whatever, like I said in the very beginning, the worst case scenario is no different than what you're doing right now.
Exactly. And especially if you are feeling burnt out, it's tech, come on, like we've all been there, or unappreciated or whatever. If you're at all unhappy at your current job, like life is short, man. You should be happy every day. And with that,
Hey, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
you are very welcome. This was obviously popular, so I am hoping to repeat this in the future and have more authors share and stuff like that. So I will let you all know. Have a great day, guys.